I think we're live. Yeah, we're live. Looks good. Sounds good. All right, guys, nerds and jiu-jitsu athletes. Today's special podcast. Chris, how are you, Chris?
I'm good. Good. How you doing?
Not too bad. Special little thing today. Well, actually, it just so happened that Chris decided to get his black belt yesterday. How, what perfect timing for the show. We planned it just right, Chris. We got it right on the money.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
No, it feels great. Funny, unplanned, but good timing for sure. It feels good. Feels good. Unexpected, but super pumped to get my black belt yesterday from Coach Faras. It was a great moment. Super, kind of surreal in a sense, just given my jiu-jitsu journey and kind of ending out
Mhm.
here. But feels good, man.
I can only imagine. So now we spoke about that in the beginning. Let's go back in time a little bit. So your whole martial art jiu-jitsu journey, what made you decide to go in this crazy sport of sweaty spandex and gis and choking out people and all this crazy stuff?
Yeah, it's a classic question. Like for me, I think just like most people, it was so I started jujitsu, late late 2010, early 2011.
Mhm.
At the time, I was pretty young. I started when I was about 13 years old. Got interested in jujitsu just from watching MMA.
Mhm.
So I got into watching MMA and UFC. I said, "Hey, this looks really cool." Started doing kind of some grappling matches in the backyard with friends
Of course.
and just kind of wrestling around and being a kid. And then actually, my uncle at the time, he said I told him, "Hey, I'm interested in MMA." And he was doing Muay Thai at a gym in Mississauga, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come out with me sometime and give it a try?" I said, "Sure." So I go to the gym. It was Elite Training Center, which has been, aside from TriStar, my gym the majority of my jiu-jitsu career. Went there, signed up to do Muay Thai, and then basically Coach Claude said, "Hey, why don't you give jiu-jitsu a try?" Jumped into jiu-jitsu at first, just no gi. I didn't want to do gi because I thought it was kind of weird, but then eventually got into gi too. And here we are, kind of 13 and a half years later, 14 years later. Pretty long journey, but that's what got me started.
Wow, but you started around 13 years old though. That's pretty good.
Hmm.
It's quite that's amazing because I know some people always say, "Oh, I wish I started jujitsu when I was older." Because I think now the average age now where people start jujitsu is like after their 30s,
Hmm.
and that's where people are like, because it's becoming to be more known worldwide, so more people are getting involved in it.
Hmm.
And to start at such an early age is pretty cool actually. And how old are you now today, Chris?
27.
27. That's still young.
Yeah.
Still young. Black belt 27. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. That was my goal to get it before I was 30, but yeah, it was good to start that young. Honestly, like I
Yeah.
think, for me, like, I still played other sports. So in
Hmm.
high school, I played football as well. But jujitsu was kind of the one that captivated me like early. And I kind of knew that I'd be doing it for a pretty long time once I had got started.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I started well, my son's been going on and off. He's in a roller coaster of jujitsu. He's 5, but I think he's liking it because I do it. But that's cool. I told my wife, like, it's an investment. Wait. Give him 10 years, he'll be the craziest 15-year-old or on the in the school.
Mhm.
But it's kind of cool that you started so young and my god, black belt before 30. That's amazing. Amazing accomplishment. But
Thank you.
was there any moments, excuse me, being so young and starting to just at a young age, did you like quit that sometimes? Did you feel like quitting? Was there like a controversy, or like you switch sports or anything like that?
So yeah, kind of. So basically, when I got into jujitsu, like I went was pretty hardcore into it, and I was training quite a bit in high school. And then when I went to university, basically I had to leave my home gym because I moved cities. I moved to Toronto, so I switched gyms, and I was at a different gym. I was at Toronto BJJ. So training there for a bit. My training kind of took a hit a little bit when I was in university, so I couldn't,
Yeah.
train as often as I wanted to, just because I was prioritizing, exams, midterms, so on and so
Oh,
forth.
for sure.
And then when I got my internship, even more so. So with Microsoft as well. I started as an intern there,
Nice.
and then so my training kind of took a hit, and then there was COVID, so of course that kind of impacted everybody to different degrees as well. But
Hmm.
then post COVID, we've just been going hard now, going steady.
Yeah.
Just on the mats every day, twice a day. So
Yeah.
things.
Well, two things there. Like whenever someone says university, automatically my brain goes back to the day where me and my wife were dating, and she was in university, and it was like nonstop studying. It was like so intense. It's
Mhm.
like thesis statements, like X amount of thousand pages and whatnot. It's like, oh my god, it's so intense. But then he caught me on saying Microsoft. So I'm in the IT world outside of this crazy social media stuff. So I'm in IT support nerd stuff.
Mhm.
What do you do exactly outside of jiu-jitsu, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so right now I'm with Microsoft as the channel sales lead for Azure in Canada.
Mm.
So I'm in the sales space. I work with Microsoft partners nationally to focus on our small and medium business segment.
Hmm.
So a lot of what I do is like sales enablement with some of our partners, supporting them on programs, top deals, business reviews, that kind of thing. And then how I started with them, I kind of worked my way up. I was an intern at Microsoft when I started. Joined as an account manager when I graduated school,
Hmm.
and now I've just moved into the channel sales role 2 years ago, and making it work with this crazy jujitsu lifestyle as well. So a lot of you know balancing act that happens there.
I got to respect my fellow nerds out there, especially when you say Microsoft. It's kind of cool you said Azure because my company, we're in a hybrid state of like we use Azure and Amazon services. So
Mhm.
like we're kind of in the middle of both. So it's kind of cool. I
Yeah,
know a lot of people won't understand what we're talking about right now, but it's like guys, we're talking about the cloud stuff. So anything in the cloud, that's what we're talking about right now. So don't break your head over that one. But being full time Microsoft and making your sales and training, what's your training schedule like? Like how often do you train a week?
yeah. So I train about 8 to 9 times a week.
Jesus.
Um, so I take a rest day. So today is my rest day, my day off. I try to do basically so TriStar. I do the noon class. So
Hmm.
on my lunch, I'll go train at noon. That's typically when more of the like serious jujitsu people are training at the noon
Hmm.
class. And then so I go there and do that, and then I come back, finish work, and then at night I do the 6:45 class as well at TriStar with Coach for us.
Hmm.
Sometimes I float around to some different spots depending on the week. Like I'll go. Sometimes I'll go to 450.
Yeah,
Go to some other spots, but generally most of my trainings at TriStar.
that's amazing. I love when people say anything over five is like amazing to me. It's not because I'm older, maybe because it is I'm older and I can't recover as much, but like and being a family man and all this stuff. But
Mhm.
I'm working on a goal, Chris. I'm working to get that 3 to 4 times. It's in progress, but I get my 2 times a week, and then I do other training around it. But
It's a big time commitment for sure. Like if you have like other obligations, which is, before we started, I was saying I don't have kids.
yeah.
That's really probably the key, not having
Mm.
kids, and then having a
Well,
work schedule that's flexible.
Well, I don't think it's really kids too. It's more like, yeah. And the thing is, what's funny is I work from home since COVID, so I have this IT job. I work from home, so I could technically go to the gym on the lunchtime if I want to and get that third time. But I find sometimes maybe because I'm closer to 30, sorry, 40 now. The recovery time is not as good as it used to be. So
Mhm.
I'm trying out new things, new ways, and that's what I want to ask you. Since you train so often in a week, what is your recovery regime like? Like, what do you do like to recover outside of jujitsu?
So um, this is where I'm a little bit more unstructured. So like,
Gotcha.
yeah, basically, like I don't have a super defined recovery plan. I think for
Okay.
me, my recovery plan is more centered around how I'm structuring my training.
Hmm.
So I would say like I'm pretty smart about how I organize my training throughout the week where I'm not trying to kill myself and burn myself out every
Hmm.
day. So like, and this is something I gradually learned over time. Like it wasn't something I've always been doing, but especially since coming here and now like training at the intensity that I'm training at, a big part of my training schedule is like figuring out, okay, hey, here's when I can push and here's where I need to scale back.
Hmm.
And then regulating the intensity of both of my sessions every day to say, hey, like maybe this session I'm listening to my body, I'm not feeling the greatest, I'll do 2 rounds. Later on the day, if I feel a little better, maybe I'll do like 3, 4, and then I kind of modulate kind of how many rounds I'm doing in a week. This was something that I wasn't doing before. I was basically just doing like as many rounds until I was fatigued for a session. This is what I was doing kind of last year, and I found I was just getting pretty cooked and burnt out.
Mm,
So now I just kind of modulate it. And then for me, like I have some non-negotiables. Like I try to like make sure that my sleep is on point.
mm.
Diet to a certain extent, but I'm definitely not the best when it comes to having a defined recovery plan. I see you have the ice baths going and the saunas, so I'm not at that level yet.
Well, here's what happened, Chris. Okay, so we were supposed to do a show maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. First time I canceled was because I had a tournament and I got sick, and the next day I was just like dead. I went to the
Mm-hmm.
tournament in Ottawa sick. I had to go because I paid for it, and I'm like, I'm going, and I think that just made things worse. I lost, wasn't good. I came home, I canceled. The week after that, uh, I've been lucky for 6 years. I've been good. I've been saying jujitsu has been saving me, this and that, and I think I neglected my recovery regime. And it's funny because I've been doing sauna and ice baths. But the thing is, after 6 years, my back locked up again. I got this like nightmare, and it was a big wake up call because it's the worst. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
paralyzed, I was handicapped, and the crazy part of this is when I first got hurt, it took me 6 months because I never trained before. I stopped training, and now that I think because of the jiu-jitsu and the training and seeing the proper care that I need, naturopathic massages and specialists in train and stretching, I'm okay after a week.
Mm.
So this is something I'm trying to like tell people too. Like even I want to ask you like, what's your recovery regime? Because it's kind of crazy how it scared me, and I want to start telling people too. Even though I don't consider myself an athlete, I just consider myself, a nerd 40-year-old guy who's in the space of training,
Mm-hmm.
and how I got this wake up call. I want to like just like send a message to everyone like, do something like the like you thought we have to do like stuff like stretching and yoga and whatnot, because even with the ice baths and the sauna, it does help. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be honest. I feel like Jello. It feels amazing, but you'll find certain weaknesses, and it's like, wow, I cannot believe this. And you got to be careful because even like you were saying, I was listening to what you were saying, like you have to listen to your body, 100%,
Mm-hmm.
100%. Do you ever miss sometimes like a session because you're like you have a slight pull on your shoulder or your knee or anything like that?
So I try not to miss sessions. The only time I miss sessions is usually work scheduling related. So if I have an
Okay,
event or something that I have to do for work, I may
okay,
miss a session. But I'm a big believer, and this is something I know, for us is big on too, which is even if you're like not feeling great, like you're injured or something,
yeah,
come to practice and watch, right? Like you don't have to
100%,
do
yeah.
everything. And this is something like, for better for worse, it's kind of defined a lot of my jujitsu over the last few years. I haven't taken any time off. Like I haven't taken time off jujitsu. I've been really consistent with my training, like pretty
Hmm.
much for the last 3 years. And big part of that is again back to what I was saying, which is like the listening to my body
Hmm.
and knowing like, hey, if I'm injured, I'm going to come in, I'm going to drill, I'm not going to roll. And I've been
Yeah.
kind of like good about that. Um, Even after like some injuries, right? Like I had a really bad injury last year in the summer, where I got Connie Basamid at a tournament. My ankle
Okay.
like exploded.
Oh God.
Um, Total like disaster scenario. Like it was horrifying. Like if I show you the footage, it's crazy.
She'll be after
Um,
for sure.
yeah, so my ankle exploded. I was on the mats 3 days later, even though I couldn't walk.
Wow.
And it wasn't like I wasn't training, but I was basically just like I was watching class, I was teaching
Hmm.
some stuff, I was doing some grip work, and I basically let it heal and I until I got to the point where I could roll.
Hmm.
But basically, like I don't like to spend time away from the mats because I think like the consistency of even just mentally seeing the training, seeing what people are doing, to me, that's how I feel like I've progressed a lot in the last few years.
Oh, 100%. Like that's exactly where my mind is right now, because even though I feel great, like I'm going to train tomorrow, but my mind says I'm gonna roll, but I'm
Mhm.
gonna do the drills. I'm gonna see how I feel. But even if I can't roll for another week, at least I'm gonna be there. And just me missing like 2 weeks, I told my wife it's the end of the world. I feel so lost. And she's like, "What's wrong with you?" Like I,
Hmm.
like but she understands now at this point. I've been doing it for a little over 3 years now. She knows like jujitsu is like it's part of my life. It's like part of my identity now. Like I told her, I'm a nerd and I do jujitsu. It's like I write my notes down. I talk about. I can just like have these weird conversations with jujitsu people. I try and wear jujitsu gear on the streets so people could see my jujitsu hats or whatever, and they just start a random conversation because you can have like such amazing friends with strangers on the streets if they just start
Hmm.
jujitsu. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The connections are crazy that you meet. Same thing with like, I have a cauliflower ear a little bit on this side, and
Hmm.
the amount of times I'm out just getting a coffee or something, and the person's like, "Hey, do you train?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do," and then we end up talking and having a discussion. It's cool.
That's amazing. I actually got that remark earlier this summer, but I don't have really have like a cauliflower ear. But I think we were doing headlock one week and constant on the headlock. I think my ear was rubbing a lot, so it was red and slightly inflated. And the guy's
Hmm.
like, "You train?" I'm like, how do you know that? Oh, your tattoos and your ear. I'm like, "Oh wow, what?
Hmm.
Really?" My wife was like, "Oh, amazing." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right. We know each other."
Yeah.
So along the years of you training, how often do you like compete? If you mind me asking.
Yeah, so it's been up and down. Like I think so at blue belt, and I competed like pretty often. I was trying
Mm,
to compete. I was competing about once a month at blue belt.
that's nice.
So I was getting a lot of like experience in at the colored belts, just because like I was younger, and I found like recovery time wise, it just I could compete, and then I could be back in the gym training 100% the next day because
Yeah.
I was like 15. And so like I was trying to compete pretty regularly and doing like grappling industries and these tournaments where I was getting like 9 matches in one day, 10 matches in one day. And then so like I was just basically trying to get all the experience I could. Um, and then basically I started to scale it back a little bit, at purple and brown. I try to right now compete around every 2 to 3 months, maybe every 2 months. But although this year has been busy for me, I've done now like three events in the span of like a month and a half. So I've
Mm,
been busier this year, but that's more just so there's interesting opportunities like the quintet, the super fight. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do these things. I'm not going to miss them. Um, but for me, like I think every 2 months is good because I like to get a chance to be able to assess, hey, here's what went right, here's what went
hmm
wrong, and I find there's like something that I'm appreciating more as I get more advanced in jujitsu is that there's learning phases where, hey, here's where I'm trying to acquire new skills, and then in that skill acquisition period, you're going to be like you can't be getting ready for a comp at the same time as you're trying to develop new skills because competition preparation is about being like really sharp about the weapons you have and
hmm
being physically ready to go compete. And then skill acquisition for me is more about, okay, I'm allowed to make mistakes, I'm allowed to get tapped because I'm trying new
hmm
things and I'm trying to add new things to my game. So for me, like taking little breaks between competing has been helpful.
Oh, for sure. And actually, something I learned from competing since we were talking about it is my last comp I did, I was super sick. But regardless of me being sick, I'm proud. My wife told me, and I told myself too at the end of it, I'm proud that I went. I don't know how I drove there, and I just showed up and I competed, but I lost both matches. And I told myself, wow, like there's such a humbling experience. It's such a weird feeling, but I told myself, this is only my third competition, and I won second and first my last two other matches. So that was kind of cool. So I was all amazed. But it's weird because my mind was saying, okay, I'm gonna medal again. Like I'm always like pre-medal mode. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why, but it was so amazing to lose, and that's so weird to say because it made me identify like some of my weak areas. Sorry, regardless of me being sick, there were issues that happened. And I'm, holy shit, why did I do this? And
Mm-hmm.
it's such a cool experience to lose too. Like, because I'm used to losing in the gym anyway. So losing at the gym or losing at an event, like there's just more people looking at me, and no one's gonna remember it, and I don't care after like 10 seconds anyway. So it's like I just go home after kind of thing, or I go to Red Lobster and
Yeah.
celebrate.
And you probably find, right, like, you probably found this in your first two events and then heading into your third. And this is something that's been true for me is that when you win, there's often less to reflect and correct on because you feel really good about yourself. Like your ego is kind of
Yes.
like, hey, I'm the best. I won this event. But then, like on an event you did bad on, that's when you're like, okay, I really have to fix these things, and it
Mm,
causes a lot more reflection. So I really hate losing, but to me, like I'd say like pivotal moments in my jiu-jitsu career have been like moments where I've come up short and I've lost because that's when I've had to go make technical adjustments. You go out and you get a like, last weekend I had that, submission in
mhm.
20 seconds or whatever it was, Magog. But, it's cool. But, what do I take away from that? I have nothing to take away from it. It's a cool experience. Love to do
Mhm.
it. You know, respect to my opponent, and it was an awesome event. But I don't have any technical things I can go say, hey, here's what I want to do better versus like when I come up short, here's where I can go back to the drawing board and start to fix things. So it motivates you a lot, I think.
Oh yeah, I felt like there's such a drive now. Even though I got hurt 2 weeks ago, but before that, there was I lost, and I'm like, I have to do something about this. I have to like fix this mistake. I have to fix, you know, it was. I really liked losing, and it's so weird. It's such weird to repeat it often. Like I love to lose because it's a different direction now for me. It's like a different motivation, or like I've been training more. I've been more focused, eating slightly better, and that's where I came in all these new therapies. I would say the
Mm-hmm.
sauna, the hot, and the cold plunges, all that stuff. Because believe it or not, the reason why I wanted to do cold plunging first was because I was scared of it. Because I used to do it and I couldn't do it anymore, Chris. I was scared of cold water. Like what? I'm a grown man. Like I do jujitsu. Why can't I put myself in cold water? And I just wanted that mental toughness again. So these little things, these little techniques over and over again, and yeah, man. I want to. I was supposed to compete this month in Montreal, but just to be safe, I have to like pay attention to my body and all that stuff. Hopefully, I can compete again later in August. There's so many events in jiu-jitsu. That's amazing about it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was so stressed. Like, I have to do an event every month, kind of thing,
Yeah,
and make it work in the budget too.
yeah, exactly. Like, you basically, if you don't want to risk injury, because then you're out of training too, right? So if you want to be smart, sign up when you're ready to go. And there's lots of events now. There's events every weekend. So
Yeah,
it's
that's the thing too. That's something I'm learning as I go. Like I just like go on Smooth Comp and just like type events. I don't even care
Mhm.
where they are anymore. Just like search. But that's cool. And your last event, how did that go? If you don't mind me asking, share that with everyone.
So last weekend, the super fight in Magog for 1-2 Jitsu. So this was an event that, super well run. Hats off to Steven and the team. Like it was a great event. So it was a super fight event headlined by Max Cote versus Oliver Taza. I was approached to do the co-main event. My original opponent, which was Breno from Toronto, he had to pull out of the event, unfortunately, the week of because he had staff.
Mm,
So I had basically a short term replacement who stepped up on 5 days' notice. Heavier guy, I think he was about like 30 pounds heavier than me or something like that. But
mm.
he stepped up, and the promoter said, "Hey, do you still want to be on the card?" I said, "Yeah, for sure. My teammates are on it. Put me in." I had been training, I was ready, so I was already making the trip out there as well. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so event went really well. Pretty much went as I envisioned it. Pulled, got
Mm.
my overhook triangle, which I've been doing quite a bit, and then got a triangle armbar in about 20 seconds and took sub of the night. So that came with like a nice 1K bonus, which was
Oh
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
big check. That's
yeah,
awesome. What a moment.
yeah. It was exciting. It was even more exciting too because like I think it was my first time doing a super fight event with like
Mhm,
everybody from TriStar there, like is also competing. So we did really well as a team, like getting going 6-2 on the event, I think, or something like that.
mhm.
So everyone had a good showing, and spirits were kind of high, and everybody was pumped. So I
Yeah,
was happy to kind of cap off the night with that, and then watch Oliver Taza get a big win
nice.
versus Max in the main event.
You said the S word, and I have to talk about this. The staff. It happens. It happens, and I'm gonna mention the good guys at Grit Soap here. Oh, staff. I got it once. I didn't know I got staff. That's the funny part because I was so new to jiu-jitsu. Chris, I thought I cut myself shaving and I just infected myself shaving. That's what I thought. I thought it was like stupid. I didn't know how to shave, and like it was like bad blades kind of thing. And then as time progressed, I did some research and people informed me too. I'm like, yeah, that's part of jujitsu. That's staff. It was just like growing under my neck. I couldn't move
Mm,
my neck. It was like 3 weeks of torture.
that's crazy.
Yes, I think it was a season where everyone was getting staff. I think it was like last year. It was like just like nonstop staff. It was like it was passing around everywhere. So that was fun. So always we try and keep clean all the time. Is that
Yeah.
something you're worried about? It comes back again. Like have you gotten staff more than once, or have you ever gotten?
So I'm going to say something that
Go
I
for
think a
it.
lot of people are gonna are going to think is crazy and not believe me.
No,
But I've
don't say
never
it.
got staff from
I
anyone.
knew it. I knew you were gonna say
And this is crazy because like I've trained like
that.
all over the place where at places where staff is super common.
Yeah.
And so I've never had staff, but I know how serious it is. Like, and I think
Mm,
part of me not getting it, like it was a mixture of, I think, luck. And then also just right now I'm super hyper vigilant about my
mhm.
hygiene
Hygiene,
routine.
yeah.
So basically, like for me, like obviously, shout out, Grit soap. I use their stuff every day as well.
Smells so good.
But I think like for me, the keys are I never shower before training, like immediately before training, like
Okay.
because I don't like to take hot showers right before training because I think it kind of like erodes the natural moisture barrier of your skin and dries your
Mhm,
skin out, and then that's how like staph gets in. I don't train with like open cuts or wounds, so I make sure everything,
mhm.
if I ever have a cut, it's covered. I never shave before or after training, so I think that's might be what happened to you. Like you're shaving, it opens up kind of the pore,
Yeah.
you get ingrown hair. So I never shave before and after training. And then also like as soon as training's done, I use basically like antibacterial wipes. I wipe myself like completely. I go home right away, shower. I live 6 minutes from the gym. I shower. I use grit soap, and so far that's basically been the key for me to avoid it. But I know a lot of people that have had staff, and it's affected them in really crazy ways. So I'm just super knock on wood, hasn't happened to me yet. I'm sure it will at some point, but I think I've been able to avoid it so far.
Well, right now, knock on wood, it's a Guinness World Record for me.
Yeah,
Get your black belt and never got stabbed. That's amazing. It's like
yeah.
magic to me. But I think, like you said, like for me, because like after that experience, anytime I get a cut, it's either I might not go or I'll super tape it or I'll put that band-aid, liquid band-aid,
Mm,
and then retape it. Just be extra cautious. I'll wear longer spats if it's on my arm. But that time, I just figured it was a small little cut. What could have
mhm.
happened, kind of thing, and it just got worse and worse. And like,
Yeah.
it ain't
And it can
fun,
be
guys.
super dangerous, right? Like, a lot of people can get like hospitalized, like
Hmm.
really, really bad outcomes. So super serious for sure. Like hygiene routine is key.
Yeah, for sure. And when I went to the pharmacist, he's like, "Yeah, just put Dove soap and put this cream. It's like it'll go away in time." I'm like, "Yeah, that took like 3 weeks." Like, good
Mm.
times, jujitsu. Well, besides you not having staff, and is there something that could possibly or has annoyed you during the whole process of jujitsu? Is there anything that annoys you in jujitsu? There has to be something.
Annoys me. Are we talking about physical ailments or societal
Anything. It
ailments?
could be anything you want. It could be spazzy white belts. It could be long fingernails. It can be I don't know.
All of the above. Like I think, for me, yeah, like injury prevention. Like I just hate how common certain injuries are in jiu-jitsu. Like,
Mhm.
for one thing that really spooks me is knee injuries. Like knee injuries are something I'm like hyper vigilant to make sure never happens to me. And like I think, for us is the same thing. Like, prevention, injury prevention is key when it comes to knees. Like if you can obviously do rehab and everything like that, but if you get a really bad injury, like say you tear your ACL, you're never going to be the same again after is going to be the reality. Like you can come back strong, you can make a good comeback, but ultimately, like, you're going to get certain compromised, certain compromised percentage of the joint after. So I think like for me, injuries, they scare me a lot. I haven't had anything major, again, knock
Mhm.
on wood. In basically 14 years of jiu-jitsu, the worst thing I've had is just basically like some popped ankles, and then I tore my LCL. But
Mhm.
that's been it. And then yeah, like so injuries, and then the second thing, like for me, like there's like certain things about jiu-jitsu culture. I've been able to I'm pretty young guy, but I think like I've been around long enough to see how kind of things have, ebb and flowed away in a way, between like, gi jujitsu and like all the culture and like the Toronto gi jujitsu scene, and
Mhm.
then kind of how competition evolved in different ways and branched off into different things. And then now we're where we're at right now, kind of with the emergence of nogi's popularity. And there's some things that I don't like that jujitsu is kind of headed down from a cultural perspective, like meatheadedness and just a lot of
Mhm.
ego and arrogance. And it comes with the sport growing, and I think more people wanting to be part of jiu-jitsu, and a lot of different personalities are getting involved in jiu-jitsu. But I think like, when I started jiu-jitsu, it was basically like MMA people and then
Mhm.
gi people, and like there'd be some cross mingling, but basically like a lot of like respect from both people, because even the MMA fighters, it was a small kind of underground, like not underground, but like, it was a tight knit community at the time, so everybody kind of knew each other. And then even the competition scene was super tight knit, so there was like this kind of underlying element of respect. As jiu-jitsu's kind of grown and branched out in Canada, I've noticed like
Mhm.
there's a lot of just like bullshit on social media, like,
Yeah.
people pumping themselves up, putting others down, a lot of like shit talk. And like these are things that like, you get roped into, but it's not something that I enjoy seeing, that the sport's kind of going down. But it is what it is, it brings eyes. But I think I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah. That's like I usually complain about like long fingernails and stuff, but like I think a close second place for me is like what I call, you said meatheads, but I say like the UFC analysts or the UFC buffs that like they watch UFC constantly, but they don't train and they just come in there full on rage where it's
Hmm.
like, oh God, it's
Well, it
so
was
dangerous. It's for
so
everyone.
those guys were really common. So I started the gym I started at as an MMA gym. So my coach, before for us, and like kind of my mentor
Mhm.
throughout my career has been Claude Patrick, who himself fought in the UFC, also trained at TriStar, also trained at Black Zillion. So he was basically like my head coach. And at that spot, because it's an MMA gym,
Mhm.
there was all those types of people that you're talking about that would come in
Yeah.
all the time, and they want to spar, they want to like do MMA, they want to like, they're grappling with you, and they're like putting their fingers in your eye and headbutting you. I was getting headbutted by like people that were like 40 when I was like 14 years old training, right? Like people
God.
just trying to like, mess me up. Like, so I was never part of like a kids class. Like I was just thrown
Mhm.
in right with the adults, like day one. So, and then I was doing like a bit of MMA as well at the time. So I was like sparring with some like amateur guys and some pros.
Mhm.
So, all of those people that you
Yeah.
mentioned, for sure, like they're a problem. And then there's the other half where the people who are like, there's a lot of people now who are like actually good at jujitsu. And this kind of comes from like probably Gordon Ryan's influence. Like,
Mhm.
obviously I'm a big fan of Gordon Ryan and what he's done for the sport. But I think like people want to get fired up about Nogi now, and like,
Mhm.
ADCC culture. And the game has been changed now, where it's very much like you want to promote yourself by like talking a lot of shit and like kind of like making yourself more well known. Um, and it works for some people. Like some people, it's their shtick, it's their whole gimmick. But for me, like personally, I don't like to get roped into it too much. I just like to have a good time and focus on bettering myself.
No, for sure. Gotta love those UFC buffs still. I always have one thing I think about. It was in a Muay Thai class, Chris. This was I just remember seeing a guy walk in and giving a spinning elbow to a face to the coach, trying to give a spinning elbow, and wow, it's like you're in a class mixed with teenagers and girls, and it's like there's a special breed of people out there. That's all I'm gonna say. I'll be as nice as possible, but yeah,
Hmm.
but you gotta be careful. They exist. So, Chris, out of the super fight, your jiu-jitsu journey, yesterday at a special event. You got your black belt, and now you're on my show. What perfect timing. We planned this. We nailed it, Chris. How do you feel? How did you expect it? Did you expect it?
No, so I didn't expect it. Actually, it was funny. So I actually showed up yesterday so at TriStar, we never do gi, we only do no gi. I
Mhm.
showed up with my brown belt because a couple of the guys wanted to do some gi rounds after
Oh,
after rolling. So I said, yeah, I'm down to do some gi. So I brought in my brown belt, and I don't have a gi here with me because I'm kind of back and forth between Toronto and Montreal.
Hmm.
So I don't have a gi with me, but I said, yeah, I'll do some gi. And then the promotion happened, totally unexpected, basically like, class as usual.
Hmm.
And then for us, lines everybody up. And then, super, super awesome moment, myself and Coach Rob were promoted to black belt, which was a super great moment. High energy in the room. Like, it's always exciting when there's a black belt promotion,
Yeah.
um, and really like really special moment for me. Just going from starting at a young age and then getting all the way to the point where I actually like moved provinces entirely to come train here and train with for us. And then to get my black belt from him was like a really, really kind of
Yeah.
special moment for me for sure.
It's amazing. Now, Chris, before we end our show, I want to ask you one question that I like to ask everyone. To anyone thinking about trying jujitsu, what is your words of wisdom to them?
Yeah, I would say my words of wisdom are more of like manage expectations properly and like get some goals in mind. So like I think a lot of people that start out jujitsu, they want to go 100%, they want to go all in, and they kind of get ahead of themselves. I'd say like be realistic about like, hey, what are you trying to do, right? Like at the end of the day, we're trying to acquire skills, we're trying to like learn and develop in the sport, and everybody's on a different journey, right? So like you can't compare yourself to other people. Basically, show up with an open mind, be somebody that asks a lot of questions. You want to kind of get answers, get experience from people. Just don't be the person that's coming in and like hey, you're trying to mess everybody up, or kind of come in with like a closed mind. Just be open minded, be respectful, and then like as you start to develop in the sport and you have a couple months or years under your belt, do some reflecting on what are your goals, and I think that should kind of dictate how you structure your training. Not everybody has to be a pro athlete. Not everybody has to go and compete every weekend. Like I think jujitsu is such an awesome sport where we have like 100 different types of people, like thousands of different types of people that do the sport with different goals, different objectives. So I would say just kind of uncover that about yourself, and then just come in with an open mind, and just you know learn as much as you can.
That's awesome. That's true for me too. I want to just add to that. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I was so determined to get my blue belt because I thought getting my blue belt, I'll be maybe somebody important. And then I got it, and I'm like, I'm nobody special. And now it's been over a year. I stopped as soon as I got my blue belt. I stopped caring about my belts. I just
Mm-hmm.
don't care anymore. I just want to focus on getting better. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yep.
a not a
And
single care.
then when you get your black belt, it's the same thing. It's just
Mm,
it's a special moment, but at the end of the day, like it's
back to rolling.
yeah, back to rolling, back to the gym on Monday tomorrow morning. So nothing changes.
Get your 10 minutes. Okay, back to it. Well,
Yeah.
Chris, I want to say thank you again for coming on my show. I know we had to cancel a few times. That was my fault, mostly. It's mostly my fault. But thank you again for coming on.
Yeah. No.
Congratulations, sir, on your black belt.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Marco. I
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. And hopefully in the future I can roll with you.
Yeah, 100%. Come out
Just
to try
go
it. It'll be a good
go
time.
easy on me. I have a wife and kid. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. Just go easy on
Awesome.
me. All right, awesome.
Great.
Take care. Have a one. All right, guys. Have a good day. Us.